Hey everyone, and welcome back to the show. We hear so much these days about cyber attacks and online privacy worries, don't we? It just makes sense that people are looking for protection, and when they do, VPNs often come up as the go-to solution. They're supposed to be this digital shield for us. But then, you know the drill. You try to watch your favorite show on a streaming service from another country, or even just get onto a certain website, and bam, blocked. It happens a lot. So the big question isn't just, why are they blocking me? It's, how did they even know I was using a VPN in the first place? That's the core of it, really. Today, we're going to talk about the topic about this whole game of digital hide-and-seek. We're going to unpack how VPN detection actually works, figure out who's looking, and most importantly, see if there's anything we can do to stay one step ahead. It's a complex area, so let's get into it. So how do they first spot a VPN? Well, the most common method is actually simpler than you might think. It's IP address matching. Every website, every streaming service sees your IP address the moment you connect. And if they're serious about blocking VPNs, they keep these huge, constantly updated databases of known IP addresses that belong to VPN providers. When your connection comes in, they check your IP against their list. If there's a match, bingo, you're flagged as using a VPN. It's like a bouncer checking IDs at the door, and this list management is a relentless, real-time battle. Now that's the main way, but I bet you're thinking there have to be more technical methods. And you're right, there are. But these often need more access or special tools, so it's not something the average website might do easily. Think about someone like a network administrator who controls the network infrastructure. They could use software like Wireshark on a gateway device to monitor the traffic going through. And what would Wireshark show them? Well, traditional VPNs often use specific network protocols, things like AH, and especially these protocols have digital fingerprints that stand out from regular web traffic, and Wireshark can spot those. Here's another subtle clue. When you use a VPN, your DNS requests, that's how your computer finds websites, usually get funneled through the VPN tunnel too, encrypted with everything else. This often happens over port 443, the same port used for secure websites with HTTPS. So if a network monitor sees an IP address sending almost all its traffic over port 443, and there are no separate DNS requests coming directly from that IP, that's a pretty strong signal. Normally, you'd see those two types of traffic separately on different ports, so the combination is suspicious. What about bigger organizations, like large IT departments? They often have specialized equipment for traffic analysis that can analyze the actual data packets, even if they're encrypted. Now, they can't see the data inside if it's properly encrypted, but parts of the communication package aren't encrypted. For instance, the port number being used. So if they see a lot of traffic consistently going to or from a port that's commonly used by VPNs, like UDP port 1194 for OpenVPN, that's a dead giveaway, even without seeing the content. It strongly indicates VPN use. They can't see your encrypted data, so they don't know what websites you're visiting or what you're doing. But they can see that you're connecting to a specific server, the IP address of the VPN server, and they can see that the data going back and forth is encrypted. Putting all that together, connecting to a known VPN server IP using a common VPN port and sending encrypted data, they can definitely tell you're using a VPN. They just don't know the specifics of your activity through it. Wow, right? It sounds like detection is almost guaranteed with all these methods. And yeah, it's definitely a challenge. It really is a cat-and-mouse game. But remember, that primary method is still IP address matching, the blacklists. So is it even possible to slip through? Precisely. If the service trying to detect you doesn't have a totally complete, up-to-the-minute list, then maybe your VPN's IP isn't on it yet. Some might slip through, especially if the VPN provider is good at staying ahead. And that's where the premium services that you hear about a lot, like ExpressVPN, NordVPN, and Surfshark, come in. What's fascinating is how they operate. They have huge resources, meaning lots of servers and lots of IPs. We're talking thousands of servers and massive pools of IP addresses spread all over the world. And crucially, they're constantly rotating them. They switch servers to new data centers and change the IP addresses within different network blocks and subnets. It's a continuous effort, specifically to avoid ending up on those blacklists used by streaming sites and others. They're actively trying to make it harder for the detection systems to keep up. That dynamic nature is key and makes blocking them effectively a really tough job. Okay, that makes sense. We know streaming services like Netflix, Amazon Prime, Hulu, Disney+, Peacock, and BBC iPlayer all care about this because of licensing deals. It's contractual. They have to block VPNs to satisfy the content owners, the studios. They license content for specific countries and are obligated to enforce those geo-restrictions. Using a VPN bypasses that, so they have to block it. The studios want their content shown only where they agreed. But who else cares beyond just watching movies? Well, think about educational institutions, schools, colleges, universities. Why would they care? Usually for two main reasons. Bandwidth conservation is one. They have limited internet capacity and need it for academic work. VPNs might let students bypass controls or use up bandwidth on non-study things. Or they might use them to access services that are supposed to be blocked on the campus network. They want to ensure the internet they provide is used for its intended purpose, studying. Then you get into more sensitive areas, like autocratic regimes and authorities. A source I was looking at mentioned the CCP in China as an example. Regimes like that often practice widespread internet censorship because they want to control the flow of information. VPNs could let citizens bypass that censorship and see outside information. As the source notes, they aim to prevent people from accessing the truth, as their control might rely on restricting information or spreading misinformation. China's Great Firewall is a famous and very sophisticated example of this kind of blocking technology. It uses techniques like deep packet inspection specifically to look for and try to block VPN traffic. It's a massive state effort, but even then, some VPNs still work. It's reported that some of the good ones, like the names I mentioned earlier, still manage to find ways through even those sophisticated blocks. It's a constant technological struggle. Wow, okay, so we have quite a range of people who care, from Netflix to governments. The big question then, knowing all this, is can you actually stop them from knowing? Is there a way to use a VPN without triggering these detection methods? This is where it gets really interesting, because yes, there is a way, and it's surprisingly effective. It might even be free. Remember, the main detection method is checking your IP against known VPN provider lists, the blacklists. The trick is to use an IP address that simply isn't on any of those lists because it doesn't belong to a commercial VPN company. How do you do that? Get your own personal IP address? Sort of. You build your own VPN server. I know it sounds complicated, but it's actually more accessible than you might think, thanks to cloud services. Think about Oracle Cloud, for instance. They offer a free tier, and it's pretty generous. It lets you set up what's called a virtual private server, or a VPS, which is basically your own little server in the cloud. And you can install VPN software on that. You can get a VPN server up and running on your free Oracle VPS in a matter of minutes. There are plenty of guides online to walk you through it. And the advantage is, the IP address assigned to your VPS isn't registered as belonging to ExpressVPN or NordVPN or any commercial provider. It's just an IP address from an Oracle Cloud data center. So it won't be on the blacklists. To any website or service, it just looks like a connection coming from a generic cloud server, which could be anything. It doesn't scream VPN. Pretty clever, right? And there are other cloud options. Google Cloud offers a free year, though it's not permanently free like Oracle's offer seems to be currently. And then there are paid options that are still really affordable, like Amazon Web Services, AWS, or other VPS providers like Vultr. You pay a small monthly fee, get your VPS, and set up your VPN. So you control the IP, and it's not a known VPN IP. That's the core idea. If you want to dive into how to actually install the VPN software on a VPS, a quick online search for Install OpenVPN on VPS or Install WireGuard on VPS will bring up loads of tutorials. That's a fascinating workaround. We've really covered a lot of ground here, haven't we? We went from the simple IP matching, the blacklist basics, all the way to analyzing network protocols and port numbers, the more technical detection layers. And we looked at who cares, the streaming services with their contracts, schools managing resources, and even governments trying to control information. A wide range of motivations, definitely. And then, perhaps the most empowering part, this idea that you can potentially sidestep a lot of that detection by building your own little piece of internet infrastructure, essentially taking control of the IP address. So what does this all mean for you, the person who cares about privacy? Well, it really highlights this ongoing tech arms race, doesn't it? It really does. Between the tools we use for privacy and freedom online, and the systems designed to monitor and control that access, privacy versus detection. And this idea of building your own VPN, it's not just a tech trick. It kind of represents that larger dynamic, that struggle for digital autonomy. It's definitely something to think about, and a trend worth watching. That wraps up today's discussion. Thanks for watching and tuning in. If you're curious to dive deeper into this topic, make sure to visit our website. The link is in the description below. Don't forget to subscribe and click the bell so you never miss an update. See you next time.